Welcome, everybody, to the English blog, a blog of English teachers by English teachers for English teachers. And we are the English blog team.
I'm Christine.
I'm PJ.
And I'm Sarah.
Welcome to Season 5, Episode 1 Common Myths About Teaching. As the name suggests, we're going to address some very common myths about teaching. Stay tuned till the end of this episode because we have some very exciting insights to share. For the audience, what do you think are common myths about teaching? Be sure to leave them in the comment section below.
The English blog provides customized lesson plans, and we release weekly vlog and blog content related to ESL education. We would love to hear from you, so please do send us a message at www.theenglishblog.com. Also, please subscribe to our website for exciting offers and updates. And tell your friends about our Facebook page so that we can see them there too.
As PJ mentioned, you can find us all across social media, especially on Facebook, where we premiere our blogs. That's English Blog for Teachers. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and once the videos premiere on Facebook, they also appear on YouTube. So you can follow our YouTube channel as well. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your enemies, and please talk to us. Leave us a message. Let us know what kind of common myths you've come into contact with and any ideas for future topics. We are also in partnership with 90.5 Good Vibes FM in Mindanao. So shout out to anybody that is listening to us live on the radio. It's wonderful to have you listening, and check out their station for other educational content. 90.5 Good Vibes.
The first myth we're going to discuss is everything that teachers teach is already prepared for them.
The most common myths that I've heard about teachers is that everything from lesson plans to activities in class is already prepared for them. In many cases, teachers prepare their own lesson plans, but even if not, they have to tailor lesson plans to the needs and learning styles of their students. So yes, although teachers do have lesson plans prepared for them, they still have to make some changes, and that does require a lot of effort and a lot of work on their part. Really effective teachers use props and visual aids, and that often involves spending money out of pocket. So no, it's not true that everything they teach is already prepared for them. If they are truly an effective teacher, they put a lot of effort into tailoring their lesson plans to the individual needs and learning styles of their students.
Sarah, would you like to add?
I would like to add, yeah, I think a lot of people fall into that. I think people that have never taught before, it doesn't matter what you teach. If you've never taught before, I think people have this idea that there's like a magic packet that you hand to a warm body that then presents the material and the students learn. But it's really not the case. I like to think of it like, just because somebody wrote a song for you doesn't mean you can sing it. And it's not quite the same if you can't sing it well. That's part of it being in the song. I think that's another part of preparation that people don't really understand that teachers do. That just every time you teach, it's an interpretation. You're there. You're like a performer. You have to take these words or notes that you have and put them into words, activities, gestures, everything. And there's no way that anybody can prepare that for you. That you prepare that for that performance. So yeah, I think beyond just the lesson plan, beyond just the knowledge, people also forget that there is a really big part of like social skill involved that is really, it's hard for someone else to prepare that for you in advance.
Our second common myth about teachers is that teachers have short days, never work weekends, and have the entire summers off. I would like to speak to this a little bit. If you are a good teacher and you care about your students, which I think most of us tuning into this blog are, then you will work a minimum of 12 hours a day. And that's only if you want to do the minimum amount of work on the weekends. And usually, in my experience, because it's academia, often summers are reserved for um, what we call professional development, because we need to constantly be developing our skills and our knowledge to stay current in our fields and to be effective teachers.
Yeah, as PJ said, if you are truly a good teacher, teaching is a 24/7 job. Especially in the early days of teaching, before it took me 2 to 3 hours to prepare for a 3 hour lesson. Now, fortunately, I have a Pandora's box of lessons and activities that I can just pull out whenever I need to. Nowadays, it takes about 30 minutes to an hour to prepare for the same length of a class, but it still takes a great deal of work outside of class. And so it really is a 24/7 job for me. And not to mention grading assignments and providing feedback, that takes a lot of time. And if you really want to help your students improve, you're going to have to do those things, and that's going to take a lot of effort on your part. As far as never working weekends or having an entire summer off, that depends on the teacher. Some teachers are full time, others are part time. Some only work during the academic year, others work all year round. So it really depends on the person. But yeah, as far as saying that teachers have short days, never work weekends, and have the entire summer off, I would say that's mostly not true, but it also depends on the teacher.
Can I give just one last plug? If you were
Please.
listening to that conversation and you said, wow, I love teaching, but I hate all of that extra time, I hate grading, I hate proctoring exams, you should be a language assistant. That if you are willing to make less money and work less, then that is a great way to kind of get some of those nice things about teaching without all of the extra time. Um, it's a great way to start out. And if you just know yourself and you just don't want to grade these exams, find a supporting teacher role. And you can sometimes, but not always, avoid a lot of that extra outside of class type stuff.
Our third myth about teaching is that teachers love their job every day, all the time.
Okay, so for me personally, I never once hated my job. I absolutely love my job. But there have definitely been days that made me question my qualifications or abilities as a teacher. Not every day is a walk in the park, after all. As I mentioned earlier, teaching is a 24/7 job, which means you can get burnt out. And in fact, that is an inevitable reality. It's also a job that involves working with different types of people, so you're bound to run into a bad apple or two. Just take a break every now and then, doing things that you love. I have a ton of hobbies that I dedicate a lot of my time to. And when I come back to the classroom as a teacher, I come back refreshed and rejuvenated. Realize that it's not your fault if things don't always go your way. Just keep doing your job to the best of your ability, and that's what will make you a good teacher.
I think that this myth that teachers love their job all day, every day, I think this is probably my least favorite myth. I think this is honestly one of the more harmful myths about teachers, because I think it is a way to exploit teachers, to make them work longer, to make them work harder. I think especially when you're a woman teacher, and especially too when you teach children, because people just have this idea that you should devote, if you're a woman, you should devote your life to children, whether you're their mom or their teacher. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that's healthy. And teaching is a job just like any other job. And you're going to, like Christine said, you're going to have days that you love and days that you don't love. And just like any other job, you deserve to be compensated for your time. Saying that you love your job, so I'm going to pay you less, isn't right. And that's why I really dislike this myth. I want to dispel this myth because it's not true. And if you think it's true, it easily leads you down a kind of slippery slope of not valuing the real work and the real time that teachers give.
I'd like to add that I think what makes teaching particularly difficult is all the bureaucracy around it. The best part of teaching is what happens in the classroom with the students. But it when you have to deal with, and this has happened many times to many different teachers, where they go into an institution and they're expected to just sink or swim, and they get no administrative support whatsoever, and in some of the more toxic environments they're actually given a hard time. Those are the things that really take a toll on a teacher and make the job far less pleasant. So it's not, what happens in the classroom is only one piece of course, it's the main piece of the teacher's job, but teachers have to deal with parents, administration, and the mounting load of paperwork that never ceases. And that's part of this administrative bureaucracy that can really feel like a burden to most teachers. So those are some of the more harrowing parts of the job, and they're definitely part of it. Our next myth is that good teachers don't have problems with behavior in class.
Yeah, I think I've taught a lot of kids of a lot of different ages and a lot of different contexts. And I think that at some point, every teacher is going to have problems with behavior in class, whether you're teaching kids and they're talking or not paying attention or messing around, or even when you're teaching adults and they're just kind of non participative or they don't want to talk, that kind of thing. That's also that's behavior as well. Um, and especially with kids, I mean, you have to remember that they have a life outside of the classroom and they might spend the school day with you, but your influence on them is not as large as their parents, as their family, as other people in their life. And there's a lot going on outside of the classroom that they bring with them that you'll never know that can explain this behavior. What I will say is that every teacher should work to manage the behavior. That's what is in your control. How you respond to behavior, and especially with children, how consistent you are. That will help you control the classroom. You'll never be, especially with kids, you'll never be able to control the behavior totally, but you can certainly control your classroom with that behavior inside of it and how you're going to relate to that behavior. And hopefully, with time, you might be able to change the behavior of this child. If you don't, please know it's not a personal failing on your part. There's a lot more chances and a lot more people that are around to help teach them that lesson.
I mostly teach adults, but I also have taught children. And as I said before, you're bound to run into a student who doesn't exhibit optimal behavior, whether or not you're a good teacher. The differences between a good and bad teacher lies in how they handle the behavior, as Sarah expressed earlier. Bad teachers react emotionally, purposefully guilting students for their negative behavior, but good teachers try to deal with the student in a calm and reasonable manner and try to empathize with the student, not make them feel guilty. As Sarah said, you have to realize that students have a life outside of class, and you never know what's causing that behavior. Yes, good teachers do have trouble with behavior in class every now and then, but it's how they deal with that behavior that matters.
Right, let's move on to the next myth. Teachers are ultimately responsible for the education of children. And I'll start us off on this myth. There's only so much a teacher can do. So, um, when you find yourself in a situation where perhaps there's another party holding you accountable for the amount of learning that's taking place, let's say it's an administrator or the director of the program, or say a parent. Okay, I'm sure that many of us have had to have these kinds of encounters. Yes, you should do everything as a teacher to keep your classes engaging and to use a variety of teaching techniques to cater to a variety of learning styles. That is you holding yourself accountable as a teacher for the learning of your students. At the same time, however, the idiom "it takes two to tango" is perfect for this situation. And no matter what a great teacher you are, if a student is just not interested in being in that class and listening to what you have to say, you could turn yourself into a pretzel to try to cater to this child or to this adult, and you would still not get the response that you want. So um, I would say that first of all, this just isn't true. You cannot be 100% responsible. I would say that the ratio or the percentage is probably an 80-20 or 75-25 split for most students, but you are going to encounter unmotivated students that just are not interested in being there. And um, what I want to offer you a couple of suggestions to deal with that kind of behavior. One is I think my colleagues have already mentioned that sometimes when a student exhibits that kind of behavior or isn't learning in your classroom, there is a learning disability behind that. So, a learning disability like ADHD is often extremely difficult to diagnose and can often present itself as just disinterested nonchalance, and that is not the case. So, I suggest that if you do have students who are not learning what you would like them to learn, that you hold them back after class, or you have them come and see you in your free time so you can discuss it. If you'll indulge me with just one more example, I had a super enthusiastic student in my grade 8 class some years ago, and she thought she was just rocking my class and she just loved to participate. But whenever she would participate, her answers would be way off. And whenever she would write her responses to the reading, her answers would also be just non sequiturs not related to the learning. And I really was confused. I was like, I couldn't pinpoint what was going on because she was clearly interested, she was clearly listening, and she was clearly motivated. And so I had her see a learning specialist, and it turned out that she had some reading comprehension issues. So make sure that before you come to any conclusions about why a student is not learning, you do some further investigation. Our last myth around teachers and teaching is that teachers teach because they can't do anything else in their subject or in their lives.
Right. I don't know about you guys, but in my case, I teach because I love it. It's not always easy, as I've said in this episode, but I do it because of the fulfillment I get. And I also teach because it feels right for me and I know that I'm making a difference in many people's lives. Lastly, I teach because I know I'm capable in my subject. So for me, it's quite the opposite of that statement. Teachers teach because they can't do anything else in their subject. That is just not true, especially in my case. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I completely disagree. And I think everybody should be reminded one, there are teachers like me who have a whole side life that doesn't involve teaching at all. Um, so, yeah, I think teachers are special breed, I guess, because a lot of the time, many teachers have special training in their field and additional training in the field of education. That's what I think people don't understand, that to be a teacher you have to be trained in education. That is your subject. So by teaching you are working in your field. That your field is education and you're a teacher, and it makes perfect sense. um, and yeah, most of the time teachers have an area of specialized knowledge plus the knowledge of how to educate people in general, and oftentimes specifically in that type of knowledge. What do you think, PJ?
Yes, I would agree with Christine and Sarah. I think that teachers are actually highly competent in their field of study. And on top of that, on top of um, what Sarah mentioned about being knowledgeable in education, they are also they are also required to have a very high EQ because they are dealing with different people every single day, different types of students all the time. And we mentioned this earlier that nobody can really teach you how to inspire and how to reach a certain student. And that is something that teachers have a gift for. And that's what makes us special amongst many other things. And I also, this is actually related to another famous myth about teachers, which is people who are good at something do, and then people who can't do something else teach. It's a cliche that goes something like that, and that's just a load of nonsense. I came from a business family. My family thinks I'm crazy that I want to be a teacher because the compensation is less than desirable, and I was very good at running a business. I could have made a ton of money, opened my own chain of coffee shops and whatnot, and I could have made millions, but I love to teach. And like Christine said, um, I love it partly because I'm very good at it. I'm good at my knowledge of English, and I love seeing the kind of inspiration that I the and the kind of difference I can make in somebody else's life. And it's that seeing that you can make that kind of impact on an individual level over and over and over again that makes teaching so addictive. It's got nothing to do with not being able to do something else. So that's why all of us teach, I think.
And I like what you said, PJ, about the importance of EQ in teaching. It's not something that can be taught to you, it's something that you have. And people really underestimate the importance of it. It's just important to have. In addition to the knowledge and skills you have in your respective field, you must know how to emotionally connect with your students. And without that very crucial ingredient, you're not going to be a very effective teacher.
That concludes our video today on myths about teaching and teachers. Don't forget that the English blog provides customized lesson plans. We release weekly vlog and blog content related to ESL education, just like what you're watching right now. Please reach out and message us if you have topics that you would like us to cover or something that you would like to know more about. Do send us a message at www.theenglishblog.com. You can also reach us on our Facebook page. We would love to hear from you. Thanks very much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Please reach out to us across our social media. You can find us, you're probably watching this video on Facebook or YouTube, but you can also talk to us by LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, just sending us an email at theenglishblog.com. Please like, follow, share, subscribe. And it's a brand new season, season 5. So please send us some topics, any things you want to see, any ideas that you have, or questions you've always wanted to ask about teaching. And I would like to say a special thank you to 90.5 Good Vibes FM for broadcasting our lovely honey sweet voices every week. You can listen 90.5 Good Vibes FM in Mindanao.
Once again, we are the English blog team. My name is PJ.
I'm Christine.
I'm Sarah, and thank you all for watching so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for watching. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.